Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Since we started shooting these kind of old west guns at long range, people have asked about the sights.
There's a hit.
And there's a lot of curiosity about it. What do these sights look like? How do you adjust these sights? Where do you get them? How much do they cost? How do you install a set of sights like this on a rifle? Well, I haven't really had much of a chance to do a video about sights yet. But since we got this new rifle, and since we're headed to the Quigley, and this just seemed like a perfect time. And what I've got right here, what came in the mail, is a brand new set of MVA Montana Vintage Arms sights. So come on in here, let's get these bad boys out of the box, and let's start showing you how to install some sights on your rifle. Okay, so when you order a set of these sights, here's what comes in the mail. They get shipped in a package like this. And this is our invoice. Let's get the pricing out of the way right now. The sight assembly, this means sight staff, the rear sight staff is $361. The base that it mounts on, $96. I ordered an upgrade, what's called a Hadley eye cup, a Magnum Hadley eye cup. We're going to have a look at that. That was another $98. The front sight, the front globe, is $167. And she gave me one sight card, but then I ordered another sight card just in case for backup, because you drop those little things and, you know, if it goes in the dirt or the grass, you may never find it again. And then, of course, you got your postage. And altogether, the total for these sights is right there, $762.95. And a nice little thank you note. So, here's what you get in the package. Comes packed up pretty nice. Everything survived the trip through the mail undamaged. And the parts come in these bags. So this bag is going to be, I believe, my front sight. And I'm going to save these bags and the box in case I ever take these sights off the rifle for whatever reason. I want to make sure that I have something to put these sights in, because I'm obviously have a bit of an investment in these now and I don't want them to be damaged. Now here is a small Allen wrench that comes with our front globe sight. And this is a 113 sight, so it has a spirit level on it right here. I hope you can see that. We're going to mount this with the level facing back toward the shooter, right? So that I easily can see that spirit level when I'm lining up. And to go with our front sight, these are the sight cards. So this is the sight card. She took the, here, I'll put it on a white background so you can see it better. These are the different apertures I can put in my front sight. And the way that happens is there's a small spring right here on the front sight. I'm really hoping, this thing is small, black, and shiny, and it makes photographing it difficult. But you rotate that spring out of the way, and then you just lift the aperture out, just like that. And this is actually one of my preferred apertures, so I'm just going to put this right back in there. And I want to be really careful on that spring too. These parts are kind of delicate. I don't want to ever put pressure on it, like in an upward motion, or tweak it or anything like that. So the sights are it's the old saying, the sights are the most important part on a rifle, right? So we want to definitely, or we're going to make sure that we take care of them. Now, this big bag, this is undoubtedly our rear Sewell sight. And for this rifle, because it's a dedicated, this is going to be a dedicated silhouette rifle, I opted for a mid-range sight. When you see the sights listed on their website, it's going to be listed, you're going to have a short range sight, a medium, mid-range, and then a long range. And really the main difference is, now in the Buffalo Sewells you have more windage adjustment as well, but the main difference between mid-range, long range, and all that is just the height of the sight staff. This staff is going to give me 250 minutes of elevation. You can see right there, I'm hoping you can see these markings, but they're marked, and this is what's called, it's called a vernier scale. And there's several videos on YouTube showing you how to use a vernier sight. So I'm not going to really go too far into that right now, other than to say it's an accurate system. It's been around for a long time, and I like it personally. The other thing that I really like about these sights is that right off the bat, this has a screw holding down the spring with the detent, right? So you can fold your sight either which way, but there's a detent that puts it in the proper shooting position. And this is different. I've had other sights in the past that were mounted where the screw was held in by the rear mounting screw that goes into the tang, and I really didn't like that very much. It means that basically what you have to do is you have to mount the rifle up, and then you have to loosen one of the mounts in order to get this adjustment right. On this MVA sight, I don't have to do any of that. It's already correctly adjusted straight from the factory. I really like that. It means less screwing around for me. The other thing I really like is this small screw holding this staff in right here. On the last set of sights I had, which were Kelley Sights, there was a huge knurled screw head there. And so even though I would hold my thumb down while shooting, on the Kelley sight, that big knurled screw would scarf my thumb up. And there were times that I would draw blood out of my hand shooting that rifle. And although I like Kelley Sights, I really dislike that feature about them. And I just, looking at these MVAs, this is a really nicely engineered set of sights. There's just really there's nothing here not to like. Now, this eye cup, this is the standard eye cup. And I elected to upgrade because I want a Hadley eye cup, number one. A Hadley, what it means is that you have an adjustable aperture. So on your standard eye cup right here, there's only one aperture. It's just it's a hole that you look through. On a Hadley eye cup though, and on this sight in particular, and I'm hoping you can see these different apertures, I can rotate this knob right here and go from a really big aperture to a really, really small aperture. And this is a big advantage depending on what your lighting conditions are, how far away you're shooting, the angle of where you're shooting, if you're shooting into the sun or away from the sun, so forth. This is a big advantage, and this was well worth the money spent. And really, it's easy to install too. The only thing I need to do is simply unscrew, great, I just dropped it, my regular aperture, and screw this one in. And I'm going to try not to drop it, actually. Now, when I adjust my sights on the range at the firing line, what you have to do is I'm going to have this snug down. It'll probably be about like that. And at that, when it's tightened up, you can't turn this top screw because there's an interference fit right here. So you have to loosen your eye cup. And once the eye cup is loosened, now I can make a sight adjustment. And if I get my adjustment, like let's say I wanted to go with 40 minutes of elevation, which is what the setting is, then I retighten my eye cup down and it can't move. In order for me to make a change, I have to loosen this eye cup again. Then I can make whatever adjustment I need to make, retighten it, I'm ready to shoot. Okay? So this is what my sight is going to look like installed on my rifle. And I guess the only thing we have to do now is pick up that part that I dropped on the floor and then get the rifle out here and do our install. So let's show you what you're going to need for that too. Alright, so here's our rifle, and there's one other thing I want to mention. These sights come with a really nice set of directions. And I know that most of the people watching my channel are old guys like me, and we're not always real fond of reading the directions, but you know what? Read them. There's basically 2 pages of instruction here. This is for the front sight, and this one's for the rear sight. And along with that, they include a really excellent explanation of how to use the sights themselves, how to adjust, how to get your different elevations, your different minutes of angle, right? See, when the two zeros are aligned, that's 0 minutes. When you turn your staff up a little bit and then those front two, the first two hash marks align, see, not aligned there, that's 1 minute. Same thing, when the second two marks align, that's 2 minutes. The third two marks is 3 minutes. There's 4 minutes right there, 2 fourth marks, and then when the 5 lines up, that's 5 minutes of elevation. So once you use this scale, it's really, really easy to do. And reading through the directions, it helps. Believe me, go ahead and do it. I know you guys don't want to, but you got an investment here. So read the directions, make things easy on yourself. Boom. Let's get that front sight mounted. Okay, so when it comes to installing our sights, there's a couple things we need. We need to have a gunsmithing screwdriver, right? I got this set from Midway. It wasn't that expensive, and it has perfect hollow ground bits. It's been pretty durable. I already know that I'm probably going to hear from some guy who says, just screw it, just use my dad's screwdriver from the garage. Don't be that guy. You've got a lot of money sunk into these sights. You don't want to be the one with buggered up screws on the firing line. So I picked out the correct bit already. So we can go ahead and put this away. The next thing you're going to need is a punch set. These are brass punches. Now there's some steel punches in here too. We will not be using those. I have a selection between brass punches, like this guy here, I may use, and I have a plastic punch here too. The thing is that these MVA sights have a really nice finish on them. This is actually a pretty highly polished and blued sight, and I don't want to screw that finish up. And I'm kind of worried that even a brass punch might be a little too much. So I'm going to put that away. I'm going to use my plastic punch here with my small hammer so that I make sure that when this thing goes together, it looks good. Factory installed, just like it grew there. So let's get the rifle out and put this bad boy together. Okay, so this is the factory, just the silver blade front sight that came with the Shiloh. And when you punch sights out of a rifle barrel, out of a dovetail, always punch it out to the right side of the barrel. Don't ever try to drive the dovetail through to the left side. And the reason for that is that these things have a tiny little angle to the cut, right? So if you force it through this way, you're actually going to screw your dovetail up. So always out to the right as you go. And this thing's it moves slowly once you start in tapping. And for this one, I probably could use my brass punch on here. So let's try that. And just be very, very careful when you take it out. You kind of need 3 hands. You have to be able to stop real quick. But there it is. Factory sight out. When I see this, the first thing I want to do is kind of make just a little test fit with this sight. And it should be really snug. Now it could be that we have to take a little bit of material from the sight to get it to go in. This one doesn't feel like it's going to be that way. This one feels pretty good. But still, I want to try and test fit a little bit before I just force it, right? Forcing it is not the answer. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take myself a Q-tip with a little bit of oil, and I'm going to put it in that dovetail. Now last year at the Quigley, I was using a Kelley sight, and the Kelley sight mounts differently than this MVA sight does. The Kelley sight has a set screw here in the side, and there's a small screw head. You turn it in and it has a plunger that comes out of the bottom, which you can just slide the Kelley sight right in and then tighten the screw, and that tightens up the sight. But what happened to me during the Quigley last year is that Kelley sight, that little set screw loosened up, and it happened to me on Saturday during the match, and I wasn't aware of it. I didn't catch on to it until I'd fired 3 strings of fire. And it's one of the things that I found was really one of the biggest disappointments of my trip to the Quigley last year, was that sight coming loose on me during the match. It's the old saying, I guess, right? It's the part is never ever gonna break while you're practicing. Now, I shot a ton of ammo all that week. I probably fired 400 rounds of ammo and nothing bad happened. But on what happened on race day, it broke. So that was really really not a fun experience, and I don't want to experience it again, frankly. And that's one of the reasons I decided to give MVA a try when I got this rifle. I was just looking for a little extra added reliability. And again, this thing's going in slow, but I'm not going to force it. We're just, if it goes in slow, it goes in slow. We're about halfway in, maybe a little more. And we're kind of stopping. Huh. I kind of Let's try this and see. Actually, put a patch over the end of that punch just to make sure. I do not want to damage the finish. There it goes. Now, this thing is going in there nice and tight. This is definitely not going to come loose on me on match day. I've got a little more to go here. Good, I'm not marring my finish. Very nice. A little bit more. We're almost there. Now, I'm going to get this lined up as good as I can by eye, and then I'm going to use a line laser to check my center to make sure that I'm centered up. I want to be as close to zero as possible with this front sight. So we're going to get our laser out. We're going to make sure that the line of center on my sight is lined up with the center of the bore. Okay, I'm hoping you guys can see this. What I've done is I put my rifle in this bench stand right here, and I've set up a line laser on it. And that line laser right now is perfectly on the center of that rifle bore, right? And then you can see it goes all the way down, and it's perfectly centered on this sight, and it's going to be perfectly centered on that MVA sight way in the back too when we get that done. But this front sight, I still have to adjust a tiny bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap it, because I have the crosshair reticle in here. I'm going to tap it until I get red line laser on that little crosshair reticle, and then it will be lined with the bore. Right? There we are, right there. So that crosshair, that vertical crosshair right there, is now perfectly lined up with the center of our bore. Alright, I'm hoping you can see how that laser is lined up on that vertical crosshair right there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use this laser to set our rear sight and make sure it's plumb. Because we may have to shim the rear sight. Okay, so we've got our rifle set here, and we've got this laser, and we're beaded right on the bottom of the rear sight here, all the way down the center of the barrel through our spirit level and our front sight aperture. Everything's all centered up. So in a perfect world, we should just be able to screw the rear sight right down onto the rifle and have it line up perfect. And we may get away with that in this case, but that's not sure yet. This may take a little bit of shimming. So what I've got here is I've got a shim kit. Some friends gave this to me, Tony and Lester, at the Quigley last year. And it could be that this thing needs to be shimmed in order to work. Or it may not. I don't know. The first thing I'm going to do is put the screws in it and see if it will stand up and line up on its own. So let's go ahead and do that. With our screwdriver. Get that one started, get the other one started. The last thing I want to do is drop one of these screws. They don't send you any extras in the packet, so whatever you do, make sure you do not have one of these suckers get away on you. If you got to start them by hand, then do that. There we go. You can turn that sight staff out of our way just a little bit. Make sure and keep that screwdriver bit centered in the screw. And I'm just going to go slightly snug here. I'm not tightening it down. Just bone tight. I want to make sure that everything lines up and is perfect. Okay? And frankly, to me, this looks really, really good. And I think that the sight may be leaning back just a little bit. But I don't know. We can check that with our line laser too, because we have a vertical. But our center, we're right through the center of that aperture. I think we may be leaning a little bit. So the trick with these shim kits, so you take that rubber band off of there. Now, you have a whole bunch of different sizes of material in here, shimming material, and I've used this before. I've got some little pieces of shim that are already cut out here, right? Let's try this one just for grins. What you do when you need a shim to shim up your sights with is you're going to cut, you just use a pair of scissors and cut a really tiny strip of material like this. And it goes under one side of the base of your sights, and in this case it's going to go under the left side to try and bring that left side up just a little bit and straighten the way that sight staff stands. So we loosen it up a little. Yep. And then we're going to try slipping our shim right under there and then tighten it back down. And we want the shim to go straight. I don't want the shim to sit cockeyed under there. I'm only trying to shim one side of this thing, not both sides. There we go. The shim's under there, so let's tighten it back down. Now on some long range rifles, some of the guys will actually shim their sight staff so that it may lean, I believe, a little bit to the right. I want to say it's, wrong screw. I want to say they might dial it up so that the top of their staff leans a couple of degrees right, and the reason is because the bullet spins, and so there's a little bit of built-in windage on the shot. When you get out to 1,000 yards, your shot will be going right, even in no wind conditions. So now let's have a look. That is considerably better, but I feel like we could still use just a tiny bit more. So what I'm going to do is take that piece of shimming material out and put a thicker piece in. Whoops, where's my bit? There it is. Yeah, where did that thing go? I think it just slid under there, and now it's in the center. Okay, let's take that out. We're going to put our thicker piece of material there. And again, line up that screw hole. Tighten it down. Now let's take a look. I actually feel like that's pretty good. I'm going to stop messing with it at this point, other than to make sure that my screws are tight. Oh, gotta get that back one snug back down. So our laser is going right through the center of that hole, right down from the center there, center of the bore. This thing is all lined up. Last thing I'm going to do is double check and make sure I'm at 90 degrees this way, up and down, and then we're done. These sights are mounted. Okay, so first things first, what I want you to see is I've got my laser beamed right in on this top flat, right on the edge of the top flat of this rifle, sitting here, right? So I've got this rifle, the barrel is now 90 degrees to the deck. And when I switch my laser over to the vertical, and I tune it in on my rear sight, there it is. That rear sight is plumb up and down straight. It leans forward just a tiny bit, and that's perfect. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. It's time to take this bad boy to the range and send some rounds down range and commence getting ready for the Quigley. Hey everybody, thanks for watching Recoil Therapy. I hope this video answered some of your questions and helped you out talking about these sights. We'll see you guys up around the bend. It does on the first shot. So come on in, I'll stick you guys right behind me with a good view. We're going to be shooting on the very last bucket target right up there. It's just right up where that slope starts to go down, that little ridge. So hopefully you'll be able to see the good dust splashes and hear the gongs. So let's get after it.